What is going on, everyone? This is Ryan with the Round Table of Wraith, bringing you our first deck tech video for the Tales of Aria set here. This is going to be the first of hopefully multiple videos with Oldhim. I had the Prism video from the last set. I only got to around to doing two of those. I wanted to do more. I feel that I'll be able to punch out a couple more with this, just because I feel like the building of Oldhim especially is very fluid. There's going to be a lot of things to test out and to try and add and subtract and all those things. So this is my first build. Again, just like my last video, I'm going to assume that you at least know how to play Flesh and Blood. You know what Oldhim does. You know what the cards do. So I'm not going to go into what each card specifically does. This is going to be more of why I have cards in this list. I've tested variations of this list quite extensively so far. I haven't tested this exact list yet. Or I shouldn't say that. I should say that I haven't tested this list as much as I've tested variations, but I've added these cards based on my testing. So this is what I would run if I have a huge tournament tomorrow. This is the list that I would be taking to that tournament. So without further ado, let's dive into some of the card choices. One of the things that I want to point out about Oldhim is that his ability, being able to pitch the Ice and the Earth card, it lends a certain flexibility that I don't think Lexi or Briar have. I think Lexi and Briar kind of have to commit to one side or the other, whereas I think Oldhim gets to kind of play both sides of the coin, and you're going to see that with some of my choices that I have in this deck. So I do think that he is afforded the opportunity to play the Earth and the Ice cards, but it has to be a very delicate balance depending on what you're trying to do. So I'm leaning more towards the Ice build because it synergizes better with Winter's Wail. But yeah, we'll dive in there. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to jump into some of the equipment choices here. And I run, I believe, 9 equipment, which is quite a bit. It's more than I have with pretty much any other hero. And one of those reasons is the Ram's Head, but we'll get to that. So the weapon here, I only run one, and that's Winter's Wail. Winter's Wail is very good at what it's trying to do. Oldhim has a very Guardian-centric strategy where you're trying to block out most turns, and you're going to be swinging with Winter's Wail. Winter's Wail is not as threatening as, say, Anathos for 6, but the on-hit of adding a Frostbite is just annoying enough. It's just disruptive enough for your opponent. So if you are blocking with 3 cards and you keep that blue Ice card, you swing this, and 4 damage is still solid. You're going to be chipping away most of the game. One of the big criticisms of Oldhim right now is that he can't win with the time frame. I've found that to not necessarily be true, but a lot of the games are going to go to that 45-50 minute mark. This is gone are the days of chain and aggro katsu where you're ending a game in 15 minutes and then you get to go grab a beer and take a piss break or whatever. You're going lengths of time. That's just the what you're signing up if you're trying to play this hero. So Winter's Wail is great. It grinds out your opponent swinging this every turn or every other turn, depending on what your hero's doing, is a very effective way to start whittling down their life and also mess with what they're trying to do, because that Frostbite is relevant. I'm going to go to Crater Fist because, Crater Fist is just, it's not the best card in this deck. It's just the best card in slot. 2 block is relevant, and that's all we're playing it for. We're not playing enough cards with Crush for the effect to be, on enough. It'll come up every once in a while, but not enough for it to be like, oh my god, this is the card you have to play. It's just 2 block, 1 block, like 3 extra block from your arms is, huge. So best in slot, you have to play it. Tectonic Plating, the two chess pieces here, Tectonic and Heart. Tectonic is like the mainstay. That's the card you're playing most of the time. Heart is more so against Prism or Bravo or Mirror. Just any deck that you think is going to have heavy defense reactions. You can argue if you know your opponent's playing like, Control Katsu, you can get away with it there, but I wouldn't take the chance. I'd rather run Tectonic against Katsu just if I was going in blind. But yeah, Heart's there for Prism for sure. That's probably this deck's hardest matchup. But Tectonic's there for everything else. The Surge tokens, come up quite a bit. And, there are some cards that this is made relevant, or the Surge tokens make way more effective. Heart is good because it messes with your opponent quite a bit. Moving down, going to your legs here, we have the Iron Hide. That's going to be your base. That's what I run against, pretty much everything. I hated these when they came out last set because it's like, oh, why are you pitching on your turn? And then Oldhim comes out, and now these things are like extremely relevant. The 2 block there is just, it's great. If you're pitching anyway, Oldhim's pitching pretty much every turn on your opponent's turn. So if you ever need a desperation 2 block, these are there for your kind of safety, safety net. Null Rune there against, Chain, Briar, Kano. Time Skippers, Prism, obviously. There have been arguments where you can cut Ironhide and just run Time Skippers just, blindly and just go that for every matchup. I am not at that point yet. I like Ironhide way too much to just make that type of commitment. But you can argue if you need an extra slot, cut this and just go Time Skippers blindly. If you feel, you have enough defense in your deck where you don't need the Ironhide, definitely do that. But I don't know. I like the Ironhide way too much. And also, I don't mind running 9 pieces of equipment just to have those options. All right, now we're going to get to kind of the bread and butter, what makes Oldhim Oldhim. First, the Rampart of the Ram's Head, the Shield. It's a fantastic card. It is absolutely great. Just having that additional 1 block, and then if they break the chain, and a 2 block, 3 block. I haven't had it go too crazy. I haven't played many dashes, but it does come up where you get it to 2, maybe 3. It's just nice to have the 1. I will say that. If it was just a 1, that's really all you need. If you can get the 2, you can get the 3. It's fantastic. This card, when I saw it spoiled, it was like, oh my god, this card's groundbreaking, and it's very good. But it's not, it's not like the best card in the deck. I think that title, with all due respect to the big shield, is the Crown of Seeds. That's the best card in the deck, which is funny. I said this in the preview video. If you guys have watched that, Crown of Seeds I thought it was a trash card. I didn't read the clause where you got to draw as well. I thought literally you just pitched a card from your arsenal, put it on the bottom, and then you prevented 1. I was like, that's trash. This card's the best card in the deck. Oldham's strength is not defense, which is what people are like, oh my god, he's just a grindy, fatigue deck. Oldham's strength is stacking. That's what he does better than any other hero in the entire game right now. Oldhim sets up his deck for late game better than any hero. He takes a lot less damage because he does that, but he sets up his deck so well, and Crown expedites that process. So you pitch, you're blocking with Ram's Head, you get to prevent with Crown, you get to, use Ironhide if you need to. You're probably blocking with 2 cards, maybe. That's already. But 1 blue pitch, which you're running majority blue, 1 blue pitch with Crown, Rampart, you block 2 damage, and you're drawing a card off of Crown, and you're setting up the bottom of your deck with whatever you had arsenaled, and then you have play to continue to block. Like, it's crazy. The best utility about Crown, too, that I never really, understood until I started playing, was when your opponents have off turns and you have a card in arsenal and you just kind of have like a shitty hand, pitching a red to activate Crown to filter and then have a 4-card hand is crazy. Using Crown on your turn feels so good. It doesn't happen like a lot. Like it's not relevant, like enough, but when it does happen, you're like, wow, this card's value is crazy. Crown of Seeds, best card in the deck, I think by far. I would, I know this is like blasphemy, but I would go as far to say if you're building an Oldhim deck and you don't know what to, what cards to prioritize, I would buy Crown before I bought Rampart to the Ram's Head. I don't know if, like I said, I don't know how blasphemous that sounds. That's just my opinion. That's my testing. This card's crazy, crazy. Set up your plays, use Crown. Late game, when you've blocked and your opponent's kind of used most of their big cards, you have all of your threats left because you're pitching to the bottom consistently. Crown helps you do that. Now we're getting into the deck. So 71 card, just bulk deck here. I'm going to go over some of my choices and why I have what I have. So we're going to start with the red threats. Command and Conquer. Because it's Command and Conquer, I feel like every set that gets released, it's like, well, Command and Conquer is finally going to go away. Maybe we'll get another generic that's better. This is the best card in the game for a reason. You run it here. You can pump it with Ice Quake, which is a card that I'm going to talk about in a second. It's so good. And Lexi, now that Lexi's going around, this card's value is just like skyrocketing. Lexi wants, 1 to 2 cards in Arsenal every turn. Briar wants a card in Arsenal every turn. Bravo's a thing. Prism, this is a good Prism card. Like, this, just the value of this card is crazy. I know it's so expensive. I know it's the best card. It's the best card in the game. It's a $100 card for a reason. If you don't have a set, I'm not going to tell you to go buy it because that's not what this channel does. But, I mean, you want this card eventually. Get this card if you can. Make some trades if you can. Just one play set and you're fine. This is the most expensive card in the game. That's not a legendary. I would say this is a staple. Let's see. We're going to go to Spinal. So Spinal, I was iffy about it first, just because it wasn't, the new hotness. It was just kind of, hey, we know what it does. But I found that without this threat in the deck, you had a lot more trouble. If you're just relying on fuse cards to get you to the finish line, you're going to have a bad time. Command and Conquer and Spinal probably get you there better than Endless Winter and Oakenold. Spinal's just a card where you have it in your hand. If you can play it, you play it. If not, wait for it to come around again. But it's that good. A lot of cards now, or a lot of heroes, Lexi wants to go again. Briar wants to go again. Prism's going to go again. So, like, Spinal's just backbreaking to those decks. Katsu is still a thing. He's not going anywhere. So, you want to play Spinal. And the best part about Spinal and not having Dominate is that it forces blocks. Oldhim wants to eat those resources from your opponent. If you can force blocks, even if you don't get the effect off, it's not that big of a deal. This card demands a response. It demands cards from your opponent, and therefore they're going to have a less threatening hand, which allows you to continue on pressure, whether it's with the whale or some sort of follow-up attack, whatever it might be. You want to eat resources from your opponent while preserving your own, and that's what Oldhim does. This card, Command and Conquer, eat up resources from your opponent. Sink Below is one of those cards like Crown of Seeds. Fantastic defense reaction. You're just filtering throughout your hand, getting to the bottom, putting cards that you want late game on the bottom and drawing cards, and you're also mitigating damage. Sink Below is fantastic in this deck. We'll get to Ice Quake here. Ice Quake is a 1-cost rare. Your next attack gains +3, and if it hits, gain Frostbite. So this pairs extremely well with Command and Conquer. For 1 blue, you get a 9 attack Command and Conquer. On hit, they get rid of their arsenal cards and create a Frostbite, which is crazy. 9 attack Command and Conquer is always fantastic. But the real utility for this card is when you kind of have like a dog shit hand, and you have this and let's say a red and an ice blue. Pitch the red, play this, pitch the ice blue, swing with hammer. And now you have a hammer swing for 7 on hit, create 2 frostbites. So they have to respect that a lot, because One Frostbite they can usually play around in some capacity. Two Frostbites kind of ruins their day a little bit. So they're either going to block that or they're going to have a really bad turn in follow up. So Icequake Whale is great. If you can combine Icequake with anything, it's great. But Icequake Whale as the fallback is just an awesome little emergency attack that is also extremely threatening on hit. Oak and Old, we'll talk about that. Oak and Old is like when you can double fuse is the probably one of the craziest cards in the game. As a 3 cost, if you have a surge, it's a 2 cost, which is just crazy. The fuse is, it's tough. The double fuse if you don't have Pulse of Eisenloft, which to this as of now, I think I've pulled the double fuse off of Pulse maybe one time, but I've gotten this card off quite a bit. The way that I build this deck, it allows for you to set up your Oak and Olds quite well. If you get the Oak and Old setup, like just randomly, you just draw it nuts, play it. You play it right away. Otherwise, this is one of those cards that you build towards the end game where you're stacking with Crown, you're stacking with Sink Belows, you're stacking with your pitches, and when you get to the rest of your deck on the second go through, you should have these set up where your opponent can't do anything, where you can just do this and then other dominated attacks back to back to back, and you just win the game hands down. This card is crazy. If you can get this card fused, play it. I know people don't like it because they think the double fusion is hard. It's much easier with this build. I promise you, try this out and see how you like it. But yeah, it's crazy. Endless Winter is another one. Endless Winter is nuts. A 4 fur is kind of expensive, especially that you need the fuse in order to get that first clause, which is pretty relevant. But if you have a Seismic Surge, the 3 makes life a lot better. But yeah, this is another one where I've played it so many times where your opponent is just like, you know what? I'm just going to take 8 damage. Whatever, if my activated abilities, it's fine. But I'd rather not commit and get 3 Frostbites. Like, if they block 3 cards, their turn's over. They just pass. So then they just eat the damage and then just deal with Frostbite on their turn, which is still a win. 8 damage for you pushing through is crazy. So Endless Winter is insane. It's such a good card. I would always try to play it off of a Seismic Surge, but I've known playing this deck, reserving your resources like that is relatively difficult. So you don't always have a Surge out like Bravo tends to do. So, yeah, try to play this when you can. Snow Under and Mulch are, 2 metacalls. These can be, not metacalls necessarily, but these can be cut. I like Snow Under because it's a 3, so I can always play that card. And, the thing with Oak and Old and Snow Under as a 3 is 7 attacks aren't bad. You'd much rather have the on hit, obviously, with the fuse, but a 3 for 7, especially late game, isn't terrible. So if I have 1 blue in this card, I don't feel necessarily bad just pitching. They're gonna block it out, especially if it's late game, but you're eating cards from their hand still. So 3 for 7s are not bad. That's why I like the Snow Unders. The on hit Frostbite is whatever. It's not that good, especially because your hammer just does that way more efficiently. But it's not terrible. And I'm going to get to a card. I have Weave Ice in this deck that, gives Dominate to fused cards. So that's why I like Snow Under. Mulch is more relevant with the on-hit because it's like a pseudo Command and Conquer where if you can fuse it, it's a little bit harder to deal with, or it demands a little bit more attention than Snow Under because a lot of times heroes don't want to lose their arsenal spot. But it is a 4 cost, which is more expensive, and Earth Fuse, which I don't have as many Earth Fusions or Earth cards in this deck. So, yes, it does come up, but this is a card that I'm, number 1, not playing in every matchup. Number 2, I'm okay with blocking with it. It is a 3 block. And number 3, it's very good against Prism because even Herald of Triumphs can't get to 7. So, this is just it's a good card against heroes that want to arsenal. And if you can fuse it, great. If not, it's fine. This is like with Endless Winter. It's one of those cards where Seismic Surge makes it so much better. So you try to prioritize the surges when you can. So that's about it for the red attacks. Those are my main like threats. I have the 2 red staunches. I ran 3 staunches. I have the 3rd red staunches right here, the Corsum. We'll get to Corsum in a second. But it could easily be your 3rd red staunch. Red staunch in this deck is crazy. You pitch a blue, you play red staunch and block with a shield for 8, and your opponent is extremely sad. I love the red staunch. The yellows, Remembrance is key for a Guardian. You're going to be going through your deck pretty often. You want to play at least 1. You can make an argument for 2. Forge for War, I'm not sold on yet. The cool thing about Forge for War is that it makes you can block for free with any of your legs. So you get a free block here, here, here. It makes your Rampart a free block. It makes your Seeds a free block. And then, if need be, it makes these both 3 blocks, which is kind of crazy. But the fact that you can just play a Forge for War and then on their turn they attack with any attack and you automatically have 3 block with equipment that can't get destroyed is pretty crazy. Blocking for 3 with equipment that don't get not -1s and then don't get destroyed at the chain, and then still having a 4-card hand to block with is pretty nutty. So yeah, Forge for War is good. I need to play it a lot more in order to be completely sold on it, but I like the early results that I've been getting back. Yellow Autumn's Touch is a card that I love. I swear by Autumn's Touch just in general, but yellow especially. It's good into Prism. It's got that yellow that we want to pop Library. It's got that 6 attack that we want to pop those Phantasms with. And I love underpitching Earth cards. I love underpitching Earth cards and then pitching an Ice card to trigger Oldhim's ability. So if I pitch the yellow Autumn's Touch to trigger the 2, and then I pitch an Ice card to trigger the rest, you get both effects here. So now I get to prevent 2, and I get to put a card from their hand on top of their deck. The thing that I like about the Earth cards here that make them, they're easy pitch. So I can always pitch those for his ability and block 2 damage, and that's setting up my late deck with Oak and Old here. They also, Autumn's Touch just blocks for 3. It's the only Earth card attack that does, which is why it's included. I try to not block with my Earth cards if I can, just because I know I'm limited on those resources. So if I have like this and like a Forge for War and they're attacking, I will much sooner block with the Forge for War than the Autumn's Touch, just because I want that to be pitched to the bottom of my deck to set up my Oak and Olds or my Mulches where I can fuse into potential dominates. So keep that in mind. You wanna pitch these. You don't necessarily want to block with these unless you absolutely have to, and always be cognizant of how many Earth cards you have left in your deck. I run 9 of those, 10 if you count Pulsive Eisenloft. So it does get, if you're just blocking with Earth, it could get thin. So those are my yellows. And then blues here, most of these are ice cards for a reason. The non-ice cards, we have Cranial, just a 6 for 8. It's great. Late game, you don't care about blocking with it. You can pitch it. It's just very good late game. So yeah, I would strongly recommend running the 3 Cranials. 3 Glacials, Ice Fusion cards. Again, 6 for 8, same thing as Cranial there, but this one can gain Dominate if you fuse, so it's a great late game card. You pitch it early, you're going to see it later. If you're going to pair it with an Ice card, so we want those late game Dominates because that's how things spiral. Terra Sunder is a absolutely crazy card. Definitely better in Bravo because you can just pair with Anothos, and then a 7 Anothos discard 2 is crazy. But this pairs really well with Whale as well. And you can pair this with Snow Under because it's a 3 cost. You can pair this with Command and Conquer. Or no, you can't. LOL, JK. You can compare, or you can pair it with Oak and Old if it's not fused. You don't want to do that if it's fused. But you can pair this with other cards other than just the Whale. But the Whale for 5 is probably your most common play. Whale for 5 on hit, create a Frostbite, discard 2 cards, dominate. Okay, you're either getting equipment from them, which we want because we're setting up our dominates late game, or 2, they're discarding 2, and you have a complete swing of momentum for swinging your weapon, which is crazy. So Terra Sunder's nuts. And then the ice cards that we're going to be running, we have Blizzard. Blizzard's just generically great against go again decks, which is a lot of things in the format. Pitching 2 resources is, it might not seem like a big deal, but it's just an annoyance, and you want to be annoying, and that's what Blizzard does. Keep an eye on, when you play this card, keep an eye on how many cards they have in hand and what they're trying to do. This card is it's much more effective if it's timed properly. If you're just going to play it at the first card that has go again for them, and they have, a 3-card or 4-card hand, they don't care about that. But if they're down to like 1 card and you play it, and they're banking on that go again, and then you disrupt them that way, this is much more effective. So sometimes it's smarter to save this and just block out their go again if it's early, instead of, playing this initially and then making them pitch a card that they don't really care about. Channeling Frigid is absolutely insane. This card is just, it's broken. This card's broken. This is the card that makes you go to time because your opponent has to, do math that they weren't expecting. They're all of a sudden looking at their fingers and they're like, how much does this cost now? And if you do this and then you have a frostbite on the table, it just, watch their mind just explode. But yeah, Lake Frigid is crazy. One of the best cards in the deck. Polar Blast is good. This is another way to get Dominate. The best clause on this is if you play it from Arsenal, you get to draw a card, which, it comes up every once in a while. It's not the best, but it is what it is. It's good late game because, again, this gives you another source of Dominate, and Dominate is typically how you're going to be able to close out the game. So we want our Dominate sources. Weave Ice is another source of Dominate. This pairs well with the Snow Unders and the Mulches, like I said. If you fuse it, if you fuse those after playing this, then those automatically gain +1 and Dominate. Another way to win the game. You can do it with Endless Winter if you have that type of resources, or if you have those type of resources, but it's a lot tougher. Winter's Grasp, just a blue pitch ice that blocks for 3. It's like the Autumn's Touch of ice cards. So yeah, this is just a great generic card. You're never playing this. You're never playing this for 4 attack. It's just a good ice blue that blocks for 3. Winter's Bite is interesting. I don't cast it all that often. It's just another card that's good to have at your disposal. This is good against Lexi, specifically. She wants her big cards. She wants big hands. That's like her thing is, she's very resource starving. So if you can stack this against her, making her either pitch or discard is great for you, just getting those cards out of hand. I've seen people that like the yellow Winter's Bites too, or even the reds. I don't know if I'd ever play the reds, but yellow is definitely a consideration just because this card is so annoying. So I would almost consider, if in like testing one time, I might try the yellows out because it's just, it is an annoyance, and it's something that if you're building around, you can do that. So tomorrow, this is the Earth Blue that I have chosen. If you like Tome of Harvests, if you like Earthlore Surge, you can sub this card out. This card is like a pseudo Remembrance. The reason it's kind of not Remembrance is because you don't have to shuffle your deck. So if we're pitch stacking, and that's our strategy, sometimes Remembrance and Awakening, which I'll get to in a second, are counterintuitive. So tomorrow is good because you just put a card on the bottom of your deck. Everything that you own or play is 2 cost or greater. So you pretty much have your like whole deck to choose from. So you just put that on the bottom. And this is another one if you play from Arsenal, you draw a card. So it's a solid blue, but like I said, if you like Tome of Harvests or if you like Earthlore Surge, those are cards that could be in this slot. This card I'm not 100% selling you on. I just enjoy it for what it is. I would sooner go to Earthlore Surge over Tome of Harvests, though. I've tried Tome, and I'm not a big fan just because with Crown of Seeds, I rarely find myself with a card in Arsenal on my turn. So, yeah. So tomorrow, solid card. Those and the Autumn's Touches, those are my 9 Earths. And then Pulse of Eisenloft, just an incredible card. I love that it's blue because I don't care about pitching it for his ability because it does trigger both. This card alone fuses Oakenold, and late game when you have to play defense reactions and your opponent's going again, it buffs everything on the chain. So there's nothing to hate about this card. This card is great. Do not use it if you draw it early. Do not use it as a defense reaction. I don't care what they're coming at you for. Pitch it, figure out a way to avoid it, pitch it for his ability, and then, see it late game. Don't, unless you're about to lose the game, honestly, or, you have a hand that can just block everything efficiently and still swing back with this card's ability, I would not be using this as a defense reaction. You want this card in your deck as much as possible. So now the non-ices, we have Expose the Elements. This is mostly a Prism tech, so you can cheese out their Phantasmal Footsteps if they commit their resources. This is a good little cheese card to kind of get around their Phantasmal Footsteps, and that's a huge deal. I don't like running more than one of this card, and I don't play this card in every matchup. This card's very bricky. And this is one of those cards that reads way better than it actually plays. This is just mostly a Prism target specifically. You can, justify running it against a deck that is going to be running Snapdragon Scalers, but even at that point, it's not really it's not the no block and the fuse aspect just makes it kind of meh. So yeah, this is mainly just a Prism silver bullet trying to snipe their Phantasmal Footsteps, because then they're going to have a tough time against you. Awakening, on the other hand, Awakening is a much better card than Exposed. This is kind of a little catch me up. One of my favorite plays is if I have, say, an Earth card, an Ice card, and like a blue pitch, right? And I can eat some damage. I can pitch that blue, block with the shield, pay 2 to use this card now that I'm down, find an Oakenold, and then play it on my turn for free, double fusing it with the cards in my hand, and that's the ultimate catch up, right? This card allows some kind of like just crazy bunk plays where you might look like you're down, and all of a sudden, hey, I get a free Oakenold that I can just search straight to my deck. So this isn't a true tutor, but this is, as tutory as it gets, aside from Showtime, which we can't run. But, you can search all of these cards. Like if you're down by 5 or more, free Spinal Crush. If you're down by 6, whatever it is, you can find your Glacial Footsteps and dominate it if you have an Ice card in hand. Because remember, you don't have to pay for it if you're making that many Surge tokens. So, yeah, Awakening is a fantastic card. Exposed, not so much. Let's see. Weave Ice, I already talked about that. Am I just on Corsum here? Yeah, I believe I am. So, scrolling down, I'm on Corsum. So, Corsum is a card. So, I'm going to preface this by saying I pulled Corsum twice. So, that makes me want to run Corsum. I will also say that I think that Oldhim has the best opportunity to keep Corsum on the table multiple rounds. I know people have played it in Lexi mostly. I haven't seen many Briars running it, but the reason I say that is because Oldhim has the opportunity to gain defense on his turn with Rampart. So if you gain a defense, then you keep Corsum around. The problem with that is there aren't many turns because of Oldham's, build where he's consistently revealing cards from hand. He does have a ton of cards that want fuse and a ton of cards that ask for a reveal. But if you're blocking with most of your hand, chances are you're not going to be able to then fuse on your turn, which means Corsum goes away. The main reason Corsum is in this deck is because of library. I run six yellows, okay, which is a decent amount for a Guardian. But this thing, if library's on the table and you play this, library dies. So this is mostly my library counter. I can play it against other heroes that I know aren't going to be able to get the benefit from it. And realistically, because I'm not going again, I'm not taking the attack bonus, I'm not taking the defense bonus. I am probably just, gaining health because I know the game's going to go long naturally. So every time I reveal a card, if I need that extra resource, which I shouldn't because I'm not going wide, I'm just going to gain a health, which is fine. If I'm using this as a library counter, it's great. The one thing that I really like about this deck and using Corsum versus the other decks is it's very hard to have this as a dead card. If it's in my hand, it could be tough to get rid of, but not with Seeds. I just arsenal this, and then on their turn, I can turn this into a 1 defense card, and I can draw off of it. So it's not terrible in this deck because there's ways to filter it if it is a dead card, and it directly counters library, which, like I said, Prism's probably the worst matchup for us. I would probably, there's other ways to go around the Prism build. You can put in Rouse the Ancients. You can put in Zealous Beltings for the go-against and stuff like that. But for now, this has been a solid deck for me. I really like the way that this is performed. I have not had to go to time very often because these attacks right here are pretty threatening. And the Remembrance to get them all back if need be. It is a solid deck. It's a lot of fun. I know some people don't really like the defensive style sometimes, and I absolutely love it. I think that he is way harder to deal with and way harder to play than Surface Value. I think people were like, oh, you just pitch and then you just grind and fatigue the whole time. And then people now, I think, are realizing that, like, a fatigue strategy with him goes for 5 hours. You cannot do that. You have to be super aggressive in some circumstances. You have to pick your windows. And that's one of the things that I've loved playing him is realizing that, hey, if I just keep doing this, I'm not going to win. We're going to draw and it's going to be stupid. But figuring out when to use his defense reaction, when to pitch for the shield, when to now, hey, this is my window. I can swing back twice as hard as you just did. Has been great. I love this deck. I love this hero. As usual, comment on the video. What did I miss? What did I screw up? What do you enjoy? Hopefully you guys are, testing him out and giving him a chance here. I know Lexi's like kind of the hotness, and Briar is going to start picking up steam. But if you're a fellow old man player, let me know what you've been doing. There have been tons of cards that I have considered playing. I feel like this is a very tight list in that, like, I look at a card or I go through my binder and I'm like, wow, damn, I really want to put that card in. And, like, have to, like, well, that's the cut right now. Like, Righteous Cleansing is a great card. I want to put that in so bad, but I just don't have room right now. But yeah. I want you to let me know, engage. Let's try to do this. And then, based on your feedback and stuff like that, I'm going to keep testing him. And yeah, hopefully I make a second video if there's enough feedback. I know I kind of let the Prism folks down, but we'll try to stick with it with Oldhim. But as always, guys, if you have any questions, please drop in the chat. I am Ryan with the Roundtable. Take a look at our other videos of our, heroes that we've done, our first impression videos. Drop some comments on there. We've got a really good one on Lexi and Oldhim. Briar's on deck. But yeah, as usual, until next time, take it easy.